Do you want to miss Jordan Peele's newest horror? That answer's easy. Nope. The residents of a lonely gulch in inland California bear witness to an uncanny and chilling discovery. Now, I only saw one trailer for Nope, and that was the initial teaser. When I went just this last weekend to the theater, I rushed out when the new trailer started. And now that I've seen this movie, I'm so glad I did. So if you haven't seen the full trailer, and I think it's like 3 minutes long, don't. Stay away from it so you can experience this movie in all of its wonder and mystery. And because of that, this review is going to be pretty vague for anything having to do with plot points. I want you to have the same experience that I did. Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Perea, and Yeun star in this. And the opening sequence is confusing and harrowing, and it sets the tone as a very unsettling beginning. Kaluuya and Palmer play brother and sister who own a horse ranch that trains horses for movies. Strange things begin to happen around the property, and they take steps to investigate, which then leads them to meet Perea's character. Yeun owns an attraction-like mini theme park nearby, and he works with Kaluuya on a few projects. And that's about it, I think, for all that I'm going to say about the plot. But I got a bunch to say about how this looks and how it all comes together. This is beautifully shot, and it doesn't hurt anything that the location is this giant valley-type setting. And even though it's brown, like so much of California actually is, the hills and sky also play a large part in the beauty. The camera work is immersive. Not only are there moments of movement that complement a scene or an actor's movements, but there are several continuous shots that help us to be placed right alongside the characters to witness then exactly what they're witnessing through mimicking actions. And when scenes kick into action mode, the camera is right there with them as well, transporting us alongside. And so many times throughout this film, I was holding my breath because of how the actors were captured. Now, sometimes it was their looks of astonishment or fear. Other times it was their resolve and confidence, taking a challenge just head on. And still, other times it was the quiet and fearful looking away. I mean, each of these was riveting and tense, and I was captivated every single time. And when we get the action sequences and they're coupled with the musical score, it's hard not to have your blood pressure raise. There's a scene that's towards the end of the movie, and it's already an anxious time. But then as the actions pick up, the score builds and it all climaxes into an utter thrill ride. Even though this is a horror-ish thriller, there is still some humor that's interjected. And both Kaluuya and Palmer are more than up to the task. Now, we know traditionally that black actors in horror movies are the first to die, but they're also usually the wisest ones, telling everybody not to go into the creepy and menacing looking house. In this, the film's title is said multiple times, and every time I was right along with the actors. It's awesome that Peele uses this platform to show strength and smarts in his actors. He's uprooting what has been done traditionally and rectifying it. The way that both Kaluuya and Palmer deliver their nope, it's perfect for the situations and the emotional levels. Sometimes it's quiet and matter-of-fact, and in others it's shouted with enthusiasm. And many of these times the scenes add a bit of levity to the situation, releasing just a bit of the tension that's building up within us. And I love that these expressions, they don't feel cheap. They're genuine and timed perfectly. I really loved Daniel Kaluuya here. He's subtly heroic and awesomely restrained. He's got a quiet and determined persona, and he's also no nonsense a lot of the time, driven by responsibility and duty. And I enjoyed how his attitude for responsibility morphs, allowing the character to grow in compassion and resolve. Now, Keke Palmer is tough to like at the beginning because she's such a contrast to Kaluuya. She's more carefree and self-determined, but typically more interested in looking out for herself. We get to see some growth in her, though, taking on responsibility and even taking the reins when necessary. Perea is a lot of fun, and he's kind of the comic relief for a lot of this, but not in a goofy way. His levity is brought about through snarky sarcasm, and it fits with the persona that he brings to the screen. But something that I really appreciate is that he, too, displays growth. He's not a static character, but one that begins to complement the brother and sister rather than antagonize them or their situation. Like with Peele's other films, this one is steeped in social commentary. Now, some of it may be obvious, but just overhearing the people in my screening after the film was over, I'm not sure they got it. And that could just be a reflection of the people that attended, but I do think in this one, Peele is making us work just a bit to understand the layers that he's addressing in the story. For me, it was hard-hitting and incredibly impactful. The messaging will probably piss some people off, but I think that means it's challenging some beliefs that need to be challenged. Now, obviously, that was all incredibly vague, but to dive into the meanings in this review would require discussing some specifics within the plot. Now, I'll probably do another video that talks about the commentary, so stay tuned for that one if you're into deeper meanings in film. There are some special effects that are utilized in the film, and I thought they looked fantastic. A large portion of this story does rely on effects, but they're convincingly executed and were shown enough, especially in daylight, so that we can see the actual quality of them. Now, the story is broken up into parts where the transitions between the parts are pretty abrupt. Songs will just be cut as the screen goes to black with the title across it, and it's typically a name. These feel like chapters, but they also feel like the way that Peele just chose to cut to other sequences. It's an odd choice, and not one that I really liked, especially because of the abruptness, almost pulling me out of the story in parts. Now, I've already talked about how the musical score was awesome at complementing and then enhancing the emotion of scenes, but something that also needs to be noted is the sound design and the use of absolute silence. There are times when power will shut down, just like we see in the teaser trailer, but in these moments, everything goes quiet. There aren't breath sounds or animal noises. I mean, there are times when it is perfectly silent. Whew, does that create a creepy vibe too? I mean, I loved it because it was almost like the oxygen was being sucked out of a scene, which then made everybody in the audience hold their breath too. And for a movie that's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, I didn't feel the time at all. This was paced amazingly to amp up the suspense and anxiety, but then to give us small breathers before ramping back up again. I mean, this kept the excitement level high, but I never felt like the story was rushing through necessary elements. This was an awesome viewing experience, especially because I really wasn't sure what to expect going in. I mean, I'm glad that I only had suspicions of what the story could contain, and I'm thankful that it's so much deeper and complex than it may have let on. Overall, Jordan Peele delivers another unique thriller that is creepy and comical, and intense and beautiful. The cinematography is enveloping, creating space and scale while never losing intimacy with the characters. I think the transitions between sequences are abrupt and jarring when the chapters change, but Peele commits to the style and maintains its consistency throughout. Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer are nuanced in their performances, presenting powerful characters that demonstrate good growth. I found the score and sound design to be extremely effective, accentuating the emotion and raising my blood pressure throughout so many of the scenes. And for me, the social commentary is necessary and biting, addressing norms and ideas that have long been ignored by mainstream media and entertainment. Peele is a master in his storytelling, and Nope is just one more example of his storytelling prowess. There's no sex or nudity, a ton of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give Nope 5 out of 5 couches. So if you've been looking forward to this film, what's a good social commentary film that you can recommend to me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.